Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Don't Watch Movies with me, Monze.
And me, Corinne.
Perfect. All right, this week we are talking about the 1989 movie Roadhouse.
Ooh.
A movie I have seen literally, I watched it like 2 weeks ago, and a movie Corinne has not seen.
I know nothing about it.
Nothing about it. Okay. So, Corinne, I hate this question. It's always the same answer. Why have you not seen Roadhouse?
I didn't know this movie existed.
What did I say?
I didn't know this existed. When I hear Roadhouse, I think of that woman with the machine gun for a leg. Like the Roadhouse films. Am I saying the right thing?
I don't know.
It's like a zombie apocalypse, and there's a woman with a machine gun for a leg, and Quentin Tarantino does like the movie too. And then the
movie?
Robert Rodriguez
Planet Terror?
Yeah, but they're called like
Grindhouse.
Yeah.
Grindhouse.
So I only know about Grindhouse films and Texas Roadhouse. I don't know anything about this movie.
Texas Roadhouse. Okay, I didn't even know about the Grindhouse thing that you're talking about.
Oh.
So, yeah. Okay. Cool, you didn't know it existed.
No.
Corinne, what do you think it's about? And I will give you one little thing.
Okay.
It has Patrick Swayze in it.
Okay.
I don't know if that's helpful, but at least you have a face to put to the movie.
Okay. In that case, I think there's dancing.
Okay. I'm here for it.
I think there's romance.
Okay. Okay, dancing, romance.
Let's put a ghost in there, and a drag queen.
And a drag queen. So you're putting every single
Patrick
Swayze movie you've seen together in one movie.
I actually haven't seen Ghost, but I know the premise of Ghost.
But you know he's a ghost, or that there's a ghost.
I know he's the ghost and Whoopi Goldberg and the pottery and the song.
Uh-huh.
Isn't he in Outsiders too? Or am I thinking of something? Yeah, okay. So some runaway
He's
people.
in Outsiders.
I'm kidding. There's a road.
No, I want this movie.
Oh, you want? Okay, fine. All right.
What is this movie, Corinne?
This movie, and then also
dancing, drag queens,
a ghost, some delinquents, and
some delinquents.
And there's got to be a road and a house. So the delinquents are running away, and they come across the Roadhouse. And it's just a house on the side of the road.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right.
And
we're not digging too deep yet.
No. But it's like a bar. Like it's also like at night, and then the drag queens go there to perform, and they're out in like Kentucky. So this is like, hey, it's our underground whatever thing, and they're like, oh wow, this is so cool. So these delinquent boys are being introduced to the art of drag, and through the tutelage of these drag queens who see themselves inside these guys, they like one of them is like really into it, so he's like finding himself through it, and the other guy's like not really into it, but he's into the guy that's finding himself, you know.
Okay.
They're all
I already love this movie. I would watch this movie.
Thank you. And then they're also, the delinquents are on the run. They're running away because the cops are after them too. And obviously,
what did they do?
They maybe they stole someone. Maybe they killed someone.
Okay, and that someone's a ghost following them. Okay. He's trying to solve the crime of his murder.
Yeah, and then so there's three of them, right? So there's the one that's really getting into drag, the one that's like getting into the guy getting into drag, and then there's the one that actually killed the person, and he's being haunted. He's the really troubled one. he's the one, I don't know, he's like the sexy, you know, sort of one, like the rugged, you know, dark-haired guy.
He's the Raphael.
Yeah. And he's being
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Except, you know, hot.
Yeah. He's being haunted by the ghost of the man he killed. Because he's never killed someone before. He, like, acts really hard, but this was the first time, and it was kind of in self-defense, right? Okay. So he's being haunted by the ghost, and he is able to work through the trauma by, like, talking to one of the drag queens, where it's like, he's not into that stuff, but he's able to, like, emotionally be vulnerable with this person and learn it's okay to not be hard all the time, and, like, we make mistakes. I don't need to know what you did, but you have to figure out how to live with it and move on and be better, right? And he's, like, taking it to heart. And then there's, like, a pageant dance ball thing coming up. And, you know, so then the guy is, like, getting really excited about it.
Hold on, Corinne, I have a question.
What's your question?
Which one of these characters is Patrick Swayze? Or is he not in the movie yet?
Patrick Swayze... He's either the one haunted by the ghost... Or he's the one that's into drag. He's one. Yeah, he's one of them. Okay. I think he's one of those people. He's definitely one of the runaways.
Okay, he's one of the delinquents. Okay, all right.
He's one of the, or he's like the dance instructor that it doesn't do drag, but he teaches the drag queens like how to like dance and stuff, and he helps keep the secret of like this stuff going on, like keeps it underground. Like maybe he's not like, but he's like top billing, so I think he's gonna be the guy that's into the guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he is like top billing.
Yeah. So he's got to be one of the runaways. So they're having that, and they're about to have this thing, but gasp. So the police are onto them, and they come into like, yeah, of course. So then they come into the town, and the town like, it's very like hush hush. Like people don't really know, but some people have an idea that like something's going on there, but they like. They don't have anything on them. Like there's like one guy that like has it out for them, doesn't, or maybe it's a woman. She like doesn't like what they're doing. It's sinful, right? So then the police end up finding her, and like prior in the movie they've had run-ins with this woman, but then the police end up finding her, and she's like, I tell you what, if that person's gonna end up anywhere, they're gonna end up here, and you're gonna find a lot more there too. And the police are like, oh, you don't say, because this is when like cross-dressing is illegal. So they're doing the dance, and it's really fun, and there's this cute like moment between the two guys where it's like, oh my god, this and this, whatever, I'm getting super close to you, I'm really into you, where when you look like a woman, but also maybe I'm into you just for who you are in general. The other guy's like, I don't know what my identity is, but it doesn't matter, I'm with you. And then the police come in and break it down, and it's like really traumatic. And I don't know what happens here, because I know something devastating has to happen, but I don't want something devastating to happen. But like, so the stakes are high. Maybe some tragedy happens. Maybe someone dies, and then they have to like come together. And then the guy that had shot someone earlier, he's like really struggling now, because he's like, well, what do I do, sort of thing. I think ultimately he ends up sacrificing himself to atone for like the sin, and kind of he sees himself like, he thinks he's doomed, right, by the narrative. He realizes he's doomed by the narrative, so he uses that to like off himself while providing an opportunity for like the two other friends to like run away off safely with like the other drag queens, and then like that's like the movie. And so they move on, they're like, we have to live our life for ourselves and be our authentic selves, and then they go off to New York City, and that's the movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
We should, I don't know, I feel like we come up with a lot of really great ideas. And it's a shame that we're just generating ideas.
I know. I should make that.
I honestly would love this movie. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Thank you.
So you're not close even a little bit. There is romance. And it's a Roadhouse, yes, is a bar.
Oh. So, okay.
So, you got those two things.
Okay.
Okay.
I got the setting and a thematic element.
Yes. I didn't preview it, so I hope it's not too revealing.
my god.
Oh! Patrick Swayze.
I thought you'd be bigger. Opinions vary.
Oh.
Punch.
How's a guy like you end up boxing? Just lucky, I guess.
She tattooing his armpit?
No, he got, I think stabbed or something. No, I shouldn't tell you. But it's not his armpit.
Oh.
Ask him to walk.
Oh, yes, that turtleneck. Oh.
He has that short sleeve turtleneck.
Yes! Bring this back.
Yes.
He's such a style icon. Is that Sam Elliott?
Sam Elliott? Yes!
Ah!
I lost my mind when I saw him.
He's so young, but also so
I
old.
know.
What's the matter, dog? Don't you like women?
No.
Worst I ever had.
No.
You'd be bigger.
But there's one thing you can count on. He's the best friend. A good time.
Oh.
Oh.
Doc, I'll get all the sleep I need when I'm dead.
This is my town.
What?
Oh.
What is happening?
That was my reaction when I was watching the movie, I'm not gonna lie.
There's so many explosions.
Gee, I've never heard that before.
Roadhouse.
Okay.
Roadhouse.
Okay.
Alright.
Okay.
Okay.
You know what?
So,
I think
Yeah.
there's still homoerotic tension here.
oh, can I tell you?
Yeah.
100%.
Like,
100%.
Between Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott, I'm already like these two. It's these.
Can I just say, Sam Elliott calls him Miho, meaning like my son.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, this is a little bit too gay for me.
Can that be like an affectionate thing, like romantically, or is it specifically familial?
It would be like familial, yeah, but it's just, I don't know, it was just like, it got to the point where I was like, you need to start calling him Miho, because what you got going on here is definitely not no Miho relationship, let me tell you that much, okay?
I see. Okay. This movie, so he's like a bouncer.
Tell me what you think it is now. You saw the trailers.
I've
now
seen the trailers.
What's your amendment?
I have to start. Now I have a little more context. I'm getting the vibe. Okay. So I think he's a bouncer, but everyone thinks he should be bigger.
Why are you so little, Patrick Swayze?
Yeah, because he's like a cute little like model kind of guy. You know, with like this chiseled marble sculpted face, and they're like, "You're the bouncer." I think he comes highly recommended. And they're
He's
like,
5'10".
"Yeah," but they're like, "I thought you'd be 6 foot."
I know. Probably also like bigger, like barrel chested kind of thing.
Yeah. They
As a tiny Mexican 5'1", he's a giant in my eyes.
To me, I'm like, oh, that's like friendly shaped.
We're friends.
5'10" is like, I mean, I tell Jesse I'm taller than him, and he's like almost 6 foot. So 5'10" feels around my height. Depends how the man is built. But so I think he's a bouncer, and he works at this club, and he's new in town. And everyone's like, where are you from? Fancy pants, whatever. I don't believe that you can bounce anybody out of here. But then he does. And
like, oh, snap.
Yeah. And like, I feel like it's like there's not really like a hardcore story. This kind of feels like things just kind of happen. Like it's like shenanigans ensue. Like I feel like the first act is like he's new in town getting to know people, and then he gets like established. And then the second act is like the romance, whatever sort of thing, and then we start to get like stakes, and then the third act is like these random stakes that came out of nowhere. So that's like where the exploding house and monster truck and whatever comes in. Maybe there's like some guy who's like a developer, and he wants to tear down the Roadhouse in the third act, and people are like, you can't take it down, that's like a fundamental fixture of our town. And then they come out with the monster truck to like destroy that rich guy's like fancy car. And maybe that's where the explosions are happening from, because they're like, I don't know, maybe Sam Elliott is the owner, but he's like not involved. He owns the land or something, so the guy is like trying to like make a deal with Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott's like, you can have this land over my dead body, and he's like, okay, let's hasten the process. And that's where they try to blow up his house, and then Patrick Swayze's like, they can't get away with this, and then they blow up the other guy's house and monster truck it. So I think that's like the conflict, like the high stakes conflict that happens at the end that solidifies Patrick Swayze as like a folk hero or whatever. But he apparently gets with a bunch of women and some nurse, even though who he really yearns and deserves to be with is Sam Elliott. So that's what I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
Am I closer?
You're definitely closer than you were before you came out with the story you had before. So, you've got some things in there. It's not everything, but we'll get to it. All right. Okay. All right, let's go. Let's start. So, we open on a bar. I'm gonna actually change this so I can see you when I'm talking to you.
Okay.
Here we go. So we're open like at a bar. It's called like Bandstand, whatever. It doesn't matter where it is, but like it's like well functioning. It's like got good clientele. It's busy. It's popping. It's locking. It's everything people love, right?
It's popping. It's locking.
It's popping and it's locking. I'm sorry. I forgot we recorded. Everyone just saw me doing that. Okay.
Only the patrons whenever we
Only our nice, beautiful patrons. So, like, a limo pulls up, and there's, like, a guy who steps out, and he, like, gives his business card to, like, the bouncer at the door, and they let him in, whatever. And again, it's like a lively, well-working, functioning bar, right? Lots of customers, drinking, dancing. There's, like, bluesy rock playing, a lot of cash. And we see Dalton, who is Patrick Swayze. Yeah, so we see Dalton. He's just kind of, like, all the bouncers are wearing a uniform, except him. He's, like, the only one who's not. And
he's incognito.
Yeah. And he's, like, just sort of watching over the crowd, watching over the bouncers he's working over. And there's, like, a fight that starts. Or at least tries to happen by one of the customers. And the bouncer's like, hey, man, let's stop. And so Dalton goes up to them, and he's like, hey, yo, you want to fight? Let's take it outside. Like, no fights inside. So they go, and they take him, and the guy's like, yeah, we're just going to leave, whatever. He's like, I'm so sorry, we'll behave. But then, they... and so he's like, okay, whatever. And then the guy pulls out, like, a knife, and he, like slashes at his arm, and Dalton is like, whatever, and he grabs him, and he's like, you want to fight? Let's take it outside. And he's like, yeah, let's fight. Dalton's just like, bye, right, or whatever, and he walks back inside, and they leave him there with like 5 bouncers at the door,
right?
You know. And so the guy who came into the club, who had showed off his business card, is in like the office, and like Dalton's like patching up his arm, or whatever, and he's like, hey, that looks pretty bad, and Dalton's like, whatever, I've had worse. He's like stitching it up himself because that's how hardcore he is.
Wow.
And the guy's like, my name's Tillman. And he says that he has bought a bar himself, and he wants Dalton to be the head cooler or the head bouncer.
Okay.
I don't know. They call them coolers for some reason.
You gotta
Maybe
cool it down.
To cool down.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it. But it's like just outside like Kansas City, Missouri, or whatever. Like I just bought this bar. It's like got a really rough crowd. Could you come over and clean it up for me? Right? And Dalton's like, all right, I'll do it. Like, that's fine. $5,000 up front, and then $500 a night. And then once it's all good, like, I'll bounce, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'll leave. Because usually, like, the implication here is, like, someone usually comes in and, like, hires him for another place.
Yeah.
So Tillman's like, no problem. And he's like, here's a plane ticket. And Dalton's like, no, I'm not going to take your plane. Flying's dangerous. I'll just drive there, whatever. I'll get there when I get there.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes to, like, a local parking garage, and he has, like, this really junky, like, Buick Riviera.
Yeah.
And he gives it to, like, the parking lot attendant. And he's like, here, you can have it. And he's like, well, I don't want this. And he's like, well, I don't want it either. Like, it's yours, whatever. So he goes to, like, a garage, and you see he has, like, a really nice car, which is, like, an 86 Mercedes, whatever. And he drives out of town. So he drives to Jasper, Missouri, which is where this new bar is. And he, like, shows, he, like, goes to the club, and it's called the Double Deuce. Ooh.
That's when
and
you
go in there
twice in one day.
I'm so tired. And, like, before he even, like, goes in, and, like, it's really shitty looking. It's, like, kind of in the middle of nowhere-esque, right?
Yeah.
Like, and there's, like, a big bouncer at the door, and he, like, throws someone out, like, immediately as, like, Dalton comes in, he starts looking around, and he starts, like, noticing everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a whole bunch of people just, like, fighting, throwing things, like, doing all this kinds of stuff. And one of the waitresses is like, do you want anything? Like, who are you or whatever? He's like, I'm Dalton. She's like, oh my god, you're Dalton? And she's, like, going around telling everyone, like, oh my god, he's Dalton. I guess for some reason, everyone knows who he is.
Oh.
I don't know why. Like, is he just famous in the bar scene? I don't know.
Maybe the owner told everyone.
Who he is. Maybe.
Yeah.
So, but, like, it's sort of established that, like, he's a legend in the bouncing business.
Okay.
Like, everyone knows who he is.
Okay.
So the bouncers, even themselves, are excited because they're like, oh, shit, we're going to clean this shit up, you know?
Okay.
And one of the bouncers, too, is, like, talking to, like, his coworker, and he's like, I heard that Dalton killed a guy once by tearing out his throat with his bare hands or whatever.
God!
And Dalton kind of hears it. He doesn't, like, say anything or do anything. But he is, again, right, he's looking, like, who's unsuited for the job. So he sees, like, this one waitress is, like, dealing drugs. You know, she's like, meet me in the bathroom, whatever, and she'll, like, sell them drugs. Some other, like, bouncers, too, are, like, too busy, you know, flirting with female customers or whatever. And don't care if fights are breaking out. And then a big fight happens. And, like, literally everyone, bouncers, customers, and there's, like, a band playing, and the band, there's, like, a giant, like, fence, just, like, covering the entire stage, like, from the ceiling to the ground. Like, that's how bad it is. Like,
I see.
Yeah. So, and the musician is blind, like, the guy who sings. So, so when, like, fights break out, like, he can't see anything.
Right.
Like, he can hear, like, what's going on.
Right.
But, like, every time there's a fight, like, the music never stops.
He's
Like,
like,
that's very interesting. Yeah.
That's why they hired him.
Yeah. And, like, furniture's destroyed. One of the bouncers gets a big black eye. And another one of the bouncers named Morgan, he's, like, beating up, like, a lot of people, and he's, like, liking it, right? And Dalton, like, he catches up with the band leader, Cody, again, behind the chicken wire cage, whatever sort of thing. And they apparently know each other. They're like, oh my god, I haven't seen you forever. He's like, you're gonna clean up this place? He's like, yeah, I guess so. And Dalton, so he goes, he meets Tillman, he's basically like, Tillman's like, so what do you think? And he's like, I'll take the job, but I want to control, like, all of the employees. Like, I want to be in charge of them. So anything I say goes. If you don't like it, then I'm not going to do the job.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, fine, deal. So, so he basically accepts the job. He goes to a used car lot, and he buys another, like, really shitty Riviera, just like the car he gave to the other guy. And he goes to a junkyard. He buys a bunch of tires. He puts them in the trunk of the car. And then he's looking for a place to live, and he finds a farm owned by this old guy named Emmett. And there's, like, a loft apartment and, like, the barn or whatever. He's like, hey, you want to live here? He's like, yeah, perfect. And he's like, you know, everybody who comes says they don't like it because there's no TV or phone or nothing. And you sure don't seem to have a problem with it. He's like, whatever. Like, I'm
Is this
cool.
Sam Elliott?
No,
Oh.
this is not Sam. I'll tell you when Sam Elliott
Okay.
arrives, okay? All right?
I'm just so excited.
I'm so excited for Sam Elliott. What's his character's name in this? He's 80 years old. Jeez. Oh, Wade. Okay, his name's Wade. All right. And he's like, I'll take it. And he's like seeing it, like this helicopter flies over, and it like purposely flies over his farm, and it like rustles up like his horses and all this stuff. And they're all upset, and he's like, he always does that to make me mad. And you can see like right across like this pond is this big fancy like mansion, right? And so there's like this super rich guy that lives there. And the owner of the chopper in that house, his name is Brad Wesley, and he's important.
Okay.
Okay, he'll keep popping up.
Brad Wesley.
Brad Wesley.
Oh, Brad.
You can hold on to that for the rest of the episode. Not like last time where I actually told you about the waitress.
Judy! I just edited that one too.
I know you did. I need to post it up. Whatever. So Dalton and Tillman hold an employees meeting. And Tillman is basically like, listen guys, we're going to fix up this place. Dalton's now in charge of management, right? So whatever he says goes. If he says it, I agree with him. So Dalton, he fires Morgan, which is the guy who was beating someone up and had a great time about it, right? And Morgan is like, you better watch yourself, right? He threatens him.
Yeah.
And he leaves. He also fires the lady who was dealing drugs.
Yeah.
And he tells everyone, like, these are the rules. You're going to be on your guard all times. Never underestimate any customers to cause trouble. And if a customer wants to have a fight, like, do not let them fight in here.
Right.
No matter what, take the fight outside. You don't want to damage the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And be nice. Mm-hmm. And they're like, but what if he's like, I don't care if they tell you anything, right? And this guy's like, what if they tell me to, like, suck their dick? Am I not supposed to take that personally? And he was like, be nice. And I'm just like, the one thing I don't understand, I don't know what it is, but people are like, you're gay, you're suck my dick, and they take it personally. It's like, why?
Uh-huh.
Why are you taking it personally?
Yeah.
What if they say, like, something about my mom? I'm like, well, you don't know your mom, so who cares? You know? Anyway.
Yeah.
As someone who teaches children, it's just like, why are you being so defensive? There's literally no reason to.
Yeah.
Right? If you show that it doesn't bother you, guess what? They're gonna stop using it against you.
Yeah.
Anyway, off my rant. But what did they say something to my mom was something that guy said or whatever. But he's like, you be nice until they get physical with you in a way that is like, you know, too bad. And don't get angry if they say something. It's just a job. It's not personal. And so that night, there's a few fights break out, and like some of the bouncers are trying to be like, hey, to be nice or whatever, but because these customers are so used to just doing whatever the fuck they want, it's a little bit hard. But Dalton comes in and he goes and he handles it, right? And so like you can see the bouncers are kind of becoming a team for a bit. One of the bouncers, Steven, is having sex in like the storeroom with one of the customers, and he gets fired immediately. And he's like, but it's my break. He's like, yeah, but still, why would you do that at work? And then the bartender, Pat, Dalton sees him skimming money from the register and putting it in his pocket. And he's drinking like beer without paying for it, right? So he's getting free beers. So that at the end of the night, he also fires Pat. And Pat's like, you can't fire me. Right, Tillman. And Tillman's like, he said you're fired, so you're fired.
Ooh.
And so everyone's like, ooh. And one of the waitresses, I forget her name, she is like, you shouldn't have fired Pat. Like, you're going to be in trouble. And Dalton's like, whatever. And Tillman is like, well, it was a good night because, like, nobody was actually killed or, like, hurt really badly. But when Dalton leaves work, he sees that his windshield has been smashed of that junky car that he just bought. And, of course, all of his tires have been, knifed or whatever, and then 10 has been broken. Right? So again, the implication, he's used to this, is why he always buys a shitty car. And he is heading to work. He's heading to town in the morning. And Brad Wesley, that rich man, he's in like his red convertible. And he's driving down the road listening to his music. And he's being a total asshole. And he's just like literally swerving as he drives purposefully. And so even though he sees Dalton's car coming towards him, he doesn't move at all. He keeps doing the swerving. So it's Dalton who almost like gets knocked off the road.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And your face is frozen into your shock, and it was pretty funny.
Yeah, my internet is kind of whatever.
Oh, he's in a Mustang, not a Corvette. Whatever. Who cares? It's a red car. And Dalton goes to the local auto parts store, and he's like, hey, man, can you replace my windshield? He's like, it's going to cost more money to replace your windshield than it would for you to just buy a new car. He's like, no, just replace my windshield. Like, it's cool. And he like sort of becomes friends with this old guy. But as he's there, Wesley walks in, and he's got like his little henchman, like Jimmy behind him, and he's like, you didn't pay your rent or whatever, like Red, like you owe me money or whatever. And Red's like, no, I don't. And they're all like looking at Dalton, and Dalton's looking at them, and they're all glaring and making mean faces at each other. So yeah. And Dalton's like, does this happen often? He's like, all the time. So then that night, at the Double Deuce, Dalton's called up to Tillman's office, and Pat is there, the bartender who was fired, along with some other guy, I guess named O'Connor or whatever. And he is like, hey, Dalton, guess what? Tillman's had a change of heart, right? Like, and Dalton's like, what? Like, why? And O'Connor is like, well, that's because Tillman buys his liquor from Wesley, right? Brad Wesley. And Pat is Brad Wesley's nephew, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So basically, he's got this job through his connections, right? Or whatever. And without it, they're going to obviously raise the price of the drinks.
Right.
And Dalton's like, I don't give a fuck about this drama, right? Like, whatever. But Pat, the bartender, pulls out a big Bowie knife. I don't know why they just have Bowie knives. Like it's 1893. And he goes and he, like, slashes at him. Or he tries to slash him, Dalton, like, dodges, whatever. But then another one of those, like, thugs from Wesley named Tinker slashes Dalton under his arm, which is why you saw like that. So it's not his armpits, under his arm. But Dalton is able to beat them all up using martial arts. And he like throws I think Tinker or someone through like the office window, and they throw them all out. And he goes to the emergency room. So at the ER, he is getting his scratch, his stab, his slash, like that.
Yeah.
And he meets the beautiful doctor, Elizabeth Clay. And he's got, like, his file folder of all of his, like, wounds, and he, like, gave it to her. She's like, I've never met anyone who just had their medical records who carries their medical records with them or whatever. And she sees, like, the cut he had earlier that he had sewed up, and she's like, this is pretty good work. He's like, yep, did it myself. And she's like, do you want me to sew this? What do you, like, he's like, just staple it, and she's gonna get, like, the anesthesia. She's like, I don't need it. She's like, are you sure? He's like, I don't need it. And she's also, because the whole records, I guess, have everything, she's like, I never met a bouncer who has a degree from NYU. And he's like, whatever. And she's like, well, what did you study? He was like, philosophy. And she's like, you didn't expect that, did you? And he invites her to Double Deuce. He's like, hey, why don't you come over sometime? It's like, maybe I will, who knows? And I'm just like, I don't like this relationship. And then the next day we see at Wesley's house, the two henchmen who are with Pat in the office, they get beat up. You know, so this Brad Wesley's like this power hungry kind of awful guy. And then those two thugs show up at Emmett's farm looking for Dalton. And they're like, hey, Dalton, Wesley wants to meet with you. And so they take him to his house. And there is a girl who was at the bar who was constantly flirting with Dalton. And when he goes to Wesley's house, he sees her there. And the night before, she had been, like, hitting on him really hard. And, like, now she had, like, a big black eye. And, like, she looked all beat up.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so not great. And Wesley's like, hey, Dalton. He's like, you know, I'm half the reason we even have business. I basically own the town. Like, I'm gonna open up a new club. Like, would you run it for me? Like, would you be the head cooler there? And Dalton's like, no, man, I wouldn't. And this is when Dalton then calls his friend Wade Garrett, who is Sam Elliott. And he, again, is also a bouncer at some other bar. And he calls him, he's like, hey, man, do you know, have you ever heard of this guy named Brad Wesley? Garrett's like, no, I never heard of him before. And Dalton's like, huh. He's like, somebody giving you trouble? And he was like, you know, same old, same old. And Garrett's like, be careful, man. Be careful, mijo. And Dalton's like, of course I will, right? And then we see, like, progressively, like, a few nights later, the bar has gotten some renovations, right? It's looks a little bit nicer. I think they got rid of the chicken chicken wire covering the stage. And there's a lot more people. But they are running out of alcohol. And Tillman says, like, he's like, hey, you know, I called everyone, but no one wants to do business with me. And that's when Dalton's like, oh, that freaking Wesley, like, is messing with whatever our distribution. They probably scared any other alcohol vendors into selling to us. So he's like, don't worry, I know somebody. So he calls a friend of his to help with, like, you know, find alcohol, whatever.
Yeah.
And some of the bouncers come to Dalton, and now they're starting to wear uniforms. They're like wearing like a little red t-shirt or whatever. Like, hey, Dalton, like, there's some of Wesley's goons in here, what do we do? And he notices, like, one of the, like, stupid goons has, like, a stupid blade attached to the front of his boot or whatever. And he's like, hey, you know, blade on the boot or whatever, stupid. And he's like, y'all can't come in. And immediately they start, like, becoming violent, and they are, like, start beating them up. And they take him out and they throw them out, so the goons can't get in. But as they're, like, beating him up, Dr. Clay shows up. And she's like, oh, wow. You know. He's like, hey, how about we go out and do something? And she's like, okay, I guess. And they go to, like, a diner or whatever. And she's like, do you enjoy your work? And he's like, I guess I do. But it's more like a job than anything else. And she's like, you know, you've had a lot of injuries considering I've seen, you know, your health record. You may not live to see, you know, old age. You got to slow down. And he's just like, okay, fine, right? Like, he takes it in, but he's not really interested in it.
Yeah.
Then at the double deuce at the next day, and he's talking to, who the hell is Cody? Oh, Cody is the blind musician. And he's like, hey, like, who's this chick or whatever? And he tells him, oh, Red, that's Red's daughter. And Wesley is actually romantically interested in her.
Then what is she doing fooling around with this guy?
She's not into Brad Wesley. Brad Wesley is into her.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Of course.
I guess they dated maybe, and she left him, and now he's just like, no one. If I can't have her, no one else can have her.
Right. You don't leave me. Sort of thing. Yeah.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
I like, so be careful, man, because that Brad Wesley's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And outside there's a delivery, an alcohol delivery, and out on the loading dock, you know, Dalton's like checking inventory, and some of those stupid goons show up.
Oh.
And they tell the delivery guy, hey, put that back, y'all can't have any, or something stupid, and Dalton's like, no, bring it in. He's like, no, or whatever, and they take it. They've been smashing bottles, and Dalton is like, we're not having this, and he like gets into a big old fight. Except he's kind of losing this time, because he gets hit over the head with a bottle.
Oh. Concussion.
And they're like, and they're like gonna take him out back to like do whatever terrible things they're gonna do to him. But who shows up? Wade Garrett, aka Sam Elliott's character, comes out of fucking nowhere, and he sees Dalton's being held down, you know, and like they're taking shots at him, and he is like goes in there and he starts kicking ass, and they're both able to get rid of like Wesley's men.
Nice.
Yeah. So then Dalton takes Garrett to meet Elizabeth or whatever, and she and Wade Garrett just become super fast friends or whatever.
Yeah.
For some reason, which I don't understand the concept of immediately liking someone you've just met, but that's okay. And Wade is like, I think you found a woman here that's so good for you. I think this is the woman for you, my dude Dalton. You know, like she could change you. And she like leaves, and she's like, I got something to do, bye. And Dalton's like shrugs it off, like, my life is too violent to settle down.
Oh my god.
Also, I don't have good luck with women. And Wade is like, listen, man, you didn't know she was married, right? So we get the backstory of Dalton. So apparently he was having an affair with a woman he didn't know was married. The man the husband shows up, and he pulled a gun on him, and Dalton killed him in self-defense, which is the throat like grabbing thing that they talked about. I think he did actually kill a man that way. So he killed him, so it's like implied like he's running away from this horrible past that he has, right?
Okay.
And that's why he also doesn't care if he dies early, because to him, he deserves it because he killed someone.
See, that's like the character I said he would play in my first version of the story. All coming together.
In a way, I was right. Okay. And then later, Dalton invites Elizabeth to his little loft, and they have the sex.
The sex of the movie. Yep.
Yeah. Let me tell you, there is so much sex in this movie. There's so many boobs in this movie. I'm just like, what is going on? It was just too much. And then like whatever they have sex, whatever, and then she wakes up in like the middle of the night, and Dalton's not in bed. This is the thing that aggravated me in this movie.
Okay.
Right. Whatever, and she's like, where is he? And he's outside on like the roof ish. Like, imagine if the barn had like a balcony or something, but it's like big, right? Like a deck. And he's sitting out there, and he's sitting on it naked. He's not wearing any clothes. And I was like, why would you not put on some pants if you're gonna go outside?
Surely that's not comfortable, and you'll be cold.
Yes, that's what I assumed, right? She goes out there and sits next to him, also naked. She's got like a blank, like a sheet, but it's not doing much. And I was like, I don't even think she actively sat on the sheet.
So they're just sitting on like the concrete or wood floor.
That's what I thought, but apparently when they pulled out, I guess he did put a sheet down, but I was still like, that's not comfortable if it's just a sheet on like wood or concrete, because it's the thinnest layer. Yeah. Like, why did you not put on pants? Why would you get up in the middle of the night, walk out where it's... I understand you're in the forest. Maybe there's, like, you're on a farm. Maybe no one's around. But if you do remember, the rich guy lives across from the ponds.
Yeah.
Okay? So, anyway, they're talking, and she's, you know, again, the physical toll of your body. Like, you're going to be in so much pain when you're older because of all of this. And, again, he's just like, whatever. But, of course... Wesley sees them both out there naked, and what do? They decide they're gonna have sex out there on that sheet. So he's also just watching them having sex, and he's like, I'm so angry.
He's so angry continuing to watch them have sex. Like, I'm so angry right now. I can't tear my eyes away. I'm so mad. I need to watch the whole thing because I'm so upset.
To watch to completion. Yeah. So Garrett, Sam Elliott shows up at the bar, and they're like having a good time. And like by this point, the bar has completely turned around. Like, it looks amazing. It looks great. Yeah. There's a whole new staff. Everyone has like their little uniforms, right? Like, it's a pretty poppin' place in town. And someone comes in, they're like, Red Store's on fire, because Red Store is like literally across the street from the bar. Yeah. And he goes out there, and Dalton runs out, and they're like, what about Red? We got a fire. So he goes in there, he grabs Red, and that's like, and then of course the place explodes. Yeah. Well, why not, right?
Why not? It's alcohol.
Yeah. Alcohol.
Alcohol is like, it explodes.
No, I know. I was trying to think what would have alcohol.
Oh, I thought he sold alcohol.
Because it's the auto parts store.
For some reason.
But, I mean, it would be flammable. I was just saying. Okay.
Huh?
You crackled out. We good?
I think so. I thought Red... Okay, I think when you were explaining Red Store, it was when I was missing bits of information, so I assumed he was their new alcohol provider. So that's why I was like, oh, the store explodes because he has alcohol.
No, he's the guy who was going to give Dalton a new windshield.
Oh, so the store is an auto store.
Yes, it's an auto store.
So the alcohol is ethanol in the gas. That's why it exploded.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah. Counts,
okay,
but
I didn't hear that part. But now we are aligned. We are on the same page.
Yeah. So then they come back, and they see that Wesley is now in the bar, and he's like, "Hey, everybody, what a great time we're having here tonight." And everyone's like, "Brad Wesley, we don't like you." And he's like, oh, it's so bad that Red's place burned down. I don't know why that would have happened, right? And he tells his blonde girlfriend, the one who had the black eye, to do a striptease. And some of them try, and she goes up on stage or whatever, she's doing like a striptease, and everyone's like, woo, woo, woo. Well, Brad Wesley's men are going like, woo, 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 right? And some of the bouncers try to stop her, and she won't until Dalton comes in. And he, like, grabs her and gives her back to Wesley. And then Wesley's like, like, my boys and your boys are going to fight. And one of his guys comes out with, like, a pool cue and is, like, beating them all up and showing off his martial arts skill. And he challenges Sam Elliott, and the two are both fighting fairly well. It's clearly a draw, and then Dalton steps in. And then Wesley brings out, like, a gun. And he's like, he's like, because it's clear that, like, he's not going to win. He's like, brings out a gun, and he fires a shot. I was like, ah! And he's like, well, I guess it's time for me to go, or whatever. And a bunch of the other businessmen with Red, because he was, saved. Yeah. They all meet together to talk about, like, we need to get rid of Brad Wesley because he's just getting worse, right? Yeah. And Red is like, I'm not even going to stick around, I'm going to leave town. But Wesley hears about this meeting, and what does he do? He gets one of his men to drive a monster truck through a car dealership. Did you hear me?
My god. I did.
Okay.
But, okay, so Brad Wesley sends his men to drive a monster truck to the car dealership?
Yeah, so it goes over and it smashes all the cars and goes through, like, the building, the inside, and, like, smashes it all up. And everyone's like, oh, no! And Brad's like, I'm Brad Wesley, I can do whatever I want. And Wes is like, this is my town, I do whatever I want. And I was like, who's Elizabeth? The doctor.
The doctor, Miss Elizabeth like, Clay.
Yeah, sorry. And he's like, she's like, why are you doing this? He's like, 'cause I hate Dalton, he's the worst. He's like, if Dalton doesn't leave, I'm gonna kill him.
Oh.
And Emmett, no, back at the ranch, right? Back at his little barn. Wade is trying to talk to Dalton, and Dalton's like shirtless, and he's punching a bag or whatever, and he's so mad. He's like, how dare they do this? And
this is the homoerotic scene.
Yeah, wait, who the fuck is Dalton? Okay, I'm like, who's Wade? Oh my god, I'm getting all these characters
Wade is Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott. Yeah, I'm just gonna say Sam Elliott shows up and is like, Patrick Swayze, like, what do? You need to leave, right? Like, it's too dangerous here for you, man. You gotta go. And and Patrick Swayze is like, no, man, I like, shut up. And like, Patrick Swayze goes to like punch him, and Wade punches him back and stops him, and he like punches him down. He's like, don't forget, man, I taught you everything you know, mijo. And then like, wait, and Sam Elliott leaves him to his little workout. All like, what happened? But yeah, this is like the most homoerotic part. And then
clearly.
Oh wait, not even. Wait. So then,
it gets more.
Yeah, hold on. I'll tell you what. It's not the best way that it happens, but yes. And then the doctor goes to Dalton, and she tells him, just get out of here, just leave, because again, Wesley rules town, like, he's gonna kill you. And he's like, I don't care. He's like, I've dealt with men like Wesley before, it's never stopped me. And she's like, no, you have to go. She's like, the town is not your responsibility. It's too violent. And of course, Emmett's house, the farmer, is on fire.
Yeah.
And Dalton rushes in, and he carries Emmett out.
Yeah.
And the house explodes. I don't know why it explodes, but it explodes.
He just had barrels of oil in the basement.
Yeah. And Dalton and Patrick Swayze hears one of the goons riding away on a motorcycle, and that's when he jumps and he like, knocks him out. Yeah. And then they're both like fighting by the pond or whatever. And like Patrick Swayze's getting real good, and then the goon is like, not this time, and he pulls out a gun. And then Dalton like kicks a gun or punches out of his hand, and what does he do? He puts his hand into his throat and rips out his throat and kills him. And Elizabeth, the doctor, watches. She's like, oh my god, that's crazy!
Oh my god! I went from I wonder how I would feel watching this movie to, I can't watch this movie, actually.
And honestly, you can't really see much.
It's still kind of
like, you can tell what's gonna happen before it happens.
Yeah. Ew.
And Dawn like throws the guy's body into the lake.
He throws the body and the throat into the lake.
Into the lake towards Wesley's house, right? Because that's what's like separating them. So he goes to the Deuce the next day, and he gets a call from Brad Wesley, and he's like, I'm flipping a coin right now, Patrick Swayze, right? Let's see who lives. Let's see who dies. Is it going to be your friend Sam Elliott or your girl Elizabeth? And he flips it. He's like, all right, I guess you'll find out. And he like doesn't tell him who it is. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is Sam Elliott staggers into the Deuce, and I don't think he's wearing a shirt, or he's bloody, and he's like sweaty, and he's been beaten up so badly. And he's like laying down. He's like, and he's like, no, like, wait. And he's like, don't worry about me, mijo, or whatever. So then, that's like the most erotic part. And then, and so obviously, Dalton's like, oh, he's gonna kill Elizabeth, right? Yeah. So he's like, okay, I guess I'll just take Wade's advice. I'll leave town like you told me and like Elizabeth told me.
Yeah.
And Sam Elliott's like, also, they told me I was lucky. He's like, oh, they're gonna kill Elizabeth. So he goes to the hospital to find her. Mm-hmm. And he's like, where is she? He's like, I'm gonna leave. Don't worry about it. I don't want you to get in trouble. And she's like, no, you can't leave.
Now she's saying
oh
you
no,
can't leave?
not even. She's just like, leave me alone.
Oh, okay. No.
You're crazy. You killed a man. You ripped a man's throat out. And he goes back to the bar because he's like, okay, Elizabeth is safe. Like, we're fine. And he's like talking to Sam Elliott. He's like, it's gonna be okay, man. It's gonna be okay. And he flips him over, and he's been stabbed with a knife. And there was a note that says it was Tails. And he's like, oh, they killed my best friend.
Wait, what? They killed him while he was out?
While he was out. They tricked him to make him think they were gonna kill Elizabeth. But it was his friend instead.
Sam Elliott.
Yes, so
Miho.
Sam Elliott died. I was so mad.
Yeah.
I was like, how dare you? So Dalton's like, this is now super fucking personal. Mm-hmm. And he drives out to Wesley's place, and he comes with his Mercedes with his nice car. Mm-hmm. And like the goons are out on the lawn, they got their shotguns and they're waiting for him. And the Mercedes is just speeding towards them, and it's like they're all like shooting it, like ha ha ha, and the car doesn't slow down and like flips over a rock wall. And one of the guys shoots a gas tank, and of course it fucking explodes.
Oh my god.
It catches fire, and it like lands a few ways away. And when they open the car, they see that he's not in there. It was just like, the accelerator has been fastened down with this combat knife. The one that clearly killed Sam Elliott.
I see. So he stabbed the gas pedal with the knife to pin it to the floor?
I don't fucking know. I don't even remember.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, we gotta find Dalton. Like, where is he? He's gotta be in the house. So they all go in the house looking for him, and as he turns a corner, he finds one of his fellow goons dead. Mm-hmm. And Dalton's like stalking all the guys. He's killing them one at a time. He's like stabbing them.
Oh my god.
There's a large stuffed polar bear, like a taxidermy one. He like shoves it, and it like lands on one of the guys, or he's trapped under there. Another one. He stabs him, he shoot, whatever, nonsense. And so Wesley is, in like the living room. He sees one of his henchmen, and he's like dead. He's like, Dalton, like, don't worry, Dalton, that was just a mercy killing, or something stupid, because he's, probably coked out for all I know. And then Dalton comes in, and he goes and he fights, Wesley. I think they get to like an actual physical fight. But Wesley comes out with some hunting spears.
Hunting spears.
And they're like trying to fight. And then Wesley pulls out a gun, but Dalton disarms him, and he's gonna rip out Wesley's throat, because apparently this is his fucking go-to move.
He's gonna do his Mortal Kombat.
He's gonna kill a man, he's gonna fucking rip out their throat.
Yeah.
But like Elizabeth comes in, and it stops him. He's like, I can't do this in front of her again, I guess, apparently.
Just be like, turn around, Elizabeth. Just leave the room and come back in 20 seconds.
Yeah, 20 seconds, he'll be dead by then. He is like, okay, like whatever. And I think he gets off Wesley, and Wesley grabs his pistol, and he's like gonna shoot at them. But suddenly out of nowhere, Brad Wesley gets hit by a bunch of shotgun shots. And who do we see? We see Red, we see Tillman, and some other dude. I think the dude who owned the car. Yeah. The used car lot. And they have their own guns, their shotguns. And he's like, this town is ours, bitch, basically. And kills Wesley. And then the police show up, and they've hidden the shotguns. Like, we don't know what happened. And they're like, who killed them? Like, who killed Brad Wesley? He's like, we know one of you guys did it. He's like, we don't know. And one of the goons, the one that got hit, like, trapped by the polar bear, they, like, kept him up. He's like, what happened? He's like, I don't know. Like, it's stupid, right? Like, yeah. And then the movie ends as we see the band playing at super successful, whatever. And then Dalton and Elizabeth are having a romantic, skinny dip in that little lake together. Okay. Making out, whatever. And it's the end of the movie.
I see. This movie is like Mary Poppins meets Bar Rescue. But
what a weird way to put that.
But then it turns into John Wick at the end. It's like they hired John Wick to be a bouncer and fix the stuff up. It escalated so quickly, because before it was kind of like, oh, okay, he's just Mary Poppins his way around. It's like fish out of water kind of stories. He's like really good at his job, local legend, and then suddenly it's like he actually did rip the throat out of a man, and it's like, okay, this is his atonement, and then he rips the throat out of another man.
No, and then he's just like, I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
So it is a bit like it does like completely go off the rails, because
Yeah.
Yeah, he feels bad, but in the end, that's his go-to fucking move.
Yeah, that's his Mortal Kombat finisher, is the throat rip, which is so weird to me. I'm like, how much of it gets ripped out? Like, is he, like, I don't know. It's so gruesome. It feels like a guy movie, with some sneaky homoeroticism put in. I don't know if it's intentional or if it's just the thing that happens with a lot of guy movies, where because they don't know how to write women, but they know how to write men, and they love their relationships with other men more than they value their relationship with women in their life. Hi, George. That particular relationship feels more like real than whatever he's got going on with Dr. Elizabeth Clay. So, like, the supernatural Sherlock issue, right? Where it's like, they don't know how to write women, but they do know how to write men, and this friendship between men, and, yeah. So, I want to know, how did
He's
you...
rubbing up on the mic.
Yeah, I heard that. I want to know, how did you end up watching this movie, and what are your thoughts? Because you said you had a lot of opinions.
Okay, so apparently this movie is considered one of the best, worst movies ever made.
Oh, that explains things.
Yeah, so it's clearly not a good movie.
Yeah.
I do like that the original tagline is "The dancing's over, now it gets dirty."
That's an incredible tagline.
Great tagline. I guess my thoughts really are... So the reason I wanted to watch it is because I think it's Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
I saw they were making a remake, and I was like, how dare they make a remake of a movie I haven't seen? But, like, I am interested to see what this is about. Because I've heard people say the title of the movie before.
Uh-huh.
I've just never seen it.
Yeah.
So I have heard of it. I never watched it before.
Yeah.
So it was on my movie list.
Okay.
It was on my movie list that
Okay.
I have with the guys.
Yeah.
And finally they chose it a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we watched it.
Yeah.
And I knew it wasn't a good movie.
Yeah.
So I kind of went in there just, like, ready to, like... I knew people like it, so I just wanted to see what it's about. And Patrick Swayze is gorgeous.
Of course.
So it was not, like, you know...
Yeah.
I mean, you saw that turtleneck he was wearing. The man is dressed impeccably the entire movie.
He is, like,
He's
an actual
so
style
beautiful.
icon.
Like, he's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous how gorgeous he is.
I feel like
all
he cares about how he looks too. So
Yes.
it's not even just like an easy one. It's like, no, I feel like he looks
He
good at
is
just
literally,
about
like-
anything, but I think he cares about what he looks. Yeah.
Like a Roman, like a Greek sculpture, right?
Literally.
Like, he's beautiful.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
So, you know, eye candy, definitely. I mean, I guess my thoughts are just how campy, like, the movie is overall.
Mm-hmm.
And just, like, how, I think the 1980s, like, there's so many bad 1980s action films.
Of course.
But I think a lot of them, I think part of it is because they have so much of this camp. And I think that thing you mentioned, right? The hyper-masculinity of it all. Where it's, like, you know, to the point where it's ridiculous, right? Where it's like, look at these women in this club. Like, why am I seeing so many boobs in this bar, right? Like, what? Like, no woman would go to, like, a seedy bar and just, like, here they are.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think there's a scene. Is it this movie? I think it is this movie. Where there's, like, a lady and a guy.
Uh-huh.
And I think she just got her boobs done or something. And the guy is, like, talking to this other guy. He's like, hey, you want to touch him? Like, $20 or whatever. or whatever. So he goes over and starts like touching her boobs.
Okay.
Right? And he's like, hey man, like you gotta pay $20. He's like, I don't have $20, haha, and then like beat him up. And I'm just like, what is this? Like, what woman would agree to this?
Yeah.
Right? And like no problem. She's like, yeah, like, and I'm like, again, right? Like, men don't know how to write women at all. And I think in the 80s it was even more so. Like, it was just like ridiculous to the point where it was like, nobody acts like this. I mean, even like the doctor, like when she shows up, like you'd think she would have some kind of concern about the fact and like some type of, I don't know, reservations, right, as a doctor to date a man who is a bouncer. So you know he is violent. You've seen his medical records, so you know, right, this guy is falling apart. He is getting injured all the time. And she's just immediately like straight in, like,
also he's,
yeah, like let's go hang out, let's date, like whatever.
He's
like,
her patient too,
which is
also,
and
like,
she is a patient. So there's definitely that, like, dude, isn't there like some kind of law?
Is there like some HIPAA thing or whatever, or just like conflict of interest
some
or whatever?
HIPAA thing. So yeah, I think it's just like how sort of wild and wacky and crazy it was. I was not bored, right? Definitely. I feel like I would zone out for a second and I'd come back and I'd be like, what just happened? Like, I don't know. It was interesting.
Yeah.
It was interesting to watch, to see. I mean, it wasn't successful when it came out. But it has become like a cult classic. And I can see why.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know. I don't know if I had deep thoughts. I think the main thing I really want to talk about was how upset I was about the sex scene and after the sex scene and how they were out there. And just like, bruh, cover up. Go inside. There's a bed. Why are you having sex out here in the nature? If you actually wanted to have sex in the nature, go in the actual nature.
It feels very like a movie made by men for men.
100%.
Even
because every woman, including the doctor, like, super like overly sexualized.
Well, they're objects. They're treated like
100%
objects.
objects. Because even though she's a doctor, I'm like, why are you doing these things? Like, these are not smart decisions.
Yeah,
it was really annoying.
It's very much they're treated like objects. The men have some level of complexity, but it's in like, oh no, you're running from your past, but also embrace the violence, but also only a woman can stop you from fully embracing the violence, you know, like only a woman can change you sort of thing, which is also like, you could learn to change yourself. I don't think you should hinge all your personal development on the like presence of a woman to like fix you, you know. It's so, I'm curious about the movie even though I don't know, like, in like, again, up until the point where he literally ripped someone's throat out, I was like, maybe I'll watch this or try to watch it, but then when that happened I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this anymore.
You were on board until he ripped out a man's throat.
Yeah.
So was the doctor.
Yeah. I was like,
she was so on board up until he ripped a man's throat out.
Just because I'm curious to watch it, to be like, okay, like, let me find everything wrong with this movie, you know, to be able to speak to it a bit more on like how are they portraying XYZ, because it almost feels like a textbook answer of like what a patriarchal movie looks like literal masculinity, hypermasculinity, toxic masculinity maybe, but then what other examples of masculinity are in there I'm curious about. But yeah, interesting. I had never heard about this movie prior. So,
really?
Yeah.
So apparently, this, you know, the striptease scene?
Yeah.
When we were watching it, Gio was like, this is the only scene I've ever seen from the movie. or maybe it wasn't the only scene. He was like, he's like, I saw this scene when I was a child. He's like, I have a very just vivid memory of this.
Thank you for sharing with us, Gio.
And I was just like, what do you mean? Like, your parents let you watch? He was like, yeah, I don't know. I just remember this. Like, I just remember this scene of her going up and like, and she literally like takes off her like outfit. She's like boobs everywhere. Like, I'm just like, you would. As a young boy, you would remember this, wouldn't you?
That's the
like,
sexual awakening. The like. Interesting.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I don't know if I want to know why and how this movie was made, but I don't know if I need to know that right now.
I don't know if I need to know that right now.
Yeah. Okay. It's almost like a parody of those types of movies.
Mm-hmm.
From what you've described. But yeah.
Yeah, but they made a remake starring Jake Gyllenhaal as Patrick Swayze's character.
No.
That came out this year.
No. No.
And he's like a former MMA fighter. I haven't seen it, so I was like, before I can say how bad that movie is, and this movie's not good, but like, I want to know.
Yeah. I don't have high hopes for that.
No, I don't either, but
on any level, it's almost them remaking. Like, okay, in a modern context, because there's some level of I can excuse it for being a product of its time, even though it's still like a gross product of its time, right? But to make that now with an MMA fighter, presumably with a similar plot, just feels like a movie made for people that like Andrew Tate.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's just because again, it's like the stripping women, objectifying women. The women aren't really real people in the movie. It's all about the violence and the fighting, and as like masculine whatever you can get. So, and even like the villain is not necessarily the villain because he's like extremely wealthy and owns half the town and can like control people. Like, that's a facet of it, but he's more so the villain because he just doesn't like this guy. Like, he's being challenged as alpha, and that's where like the villainy comes from, it seems. Versus like, no, this guy is a dick and we just haven't had the means to like usurp him because he hasn't bothered us too much. It's not until you came along with your Sigma ass that his alpha self has gotten super threatened. Which I'm sure there's Omegaverse fan fiction of this somewhere out there. But yeah.
Let's check. I'll take the hit to my...
Yesterday it was Jesse.
Shit. Did I get a package?
Is it your present?
Just because what's it called? The whatever. Boom 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 went off.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, but I didn't see it.
Okay.
So, anyways, that's
Roadhouse.
That's Roadhouse.
I would give this movie 2 stars, which might be higher than it deserves, but I think Patrick Swayze deserves those 2 stars.
Yes, I'm giving this movie 3 stars because everything was unexpected. Patrick Swayze was beautiful. If it was, I feel like I could put this movie on in the background and do things, and it wouldn't bother me.
Okay.
It was weird. It was not good, but it was a good time.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, that's our episode. Monze, where can they find us?
Oh my god, so like you can find us on Instagram at We Don't Watch Movies Pod.
Ooh.
And you can find me on Instagram at Magic Monster.
And you can find me at Corinne is Korean. Whoa. Thanks for listening. If you've watched Roadhouse, this one or the new one, let us know how it is and how they compare. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys in the new year. I think this is the last episode of this year, or was that the last episode?
You said that. No, I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Whatever. Regardless, we'll talk to you next time. So, bye.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.